Welcome to the European Football Show live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Patrick Mullen, joined once again by Blair Malloy as we have made it to game week 6 of the European competitions. Usually we just talk about the Champions League, but I think this week we've got to make a special edition. The Europa League last night, an incredible game. Tottenham versus Rangers at Ibrox. Blair, you were lucky enough to be there. First of all, what was that like?
Yes, good afternoon, Patrick. Just before we start, very festive studio we've got nowadays. It's a bit of a strange feeling knowing that European football is stretching over past Christmas this year with the new setup, but I'm sure we'll come on to talk about that in the coming weeks. But on to last night. Yep, Rangers won, Tottenham won. I was lucky enough to be there. It was quite an incredible atmosphere. I've not heard Ibrox rocking like that in a while. From the very start, you could tell it was going to be one of those really magical European nights at Ibrox when Rangers were on the front foot early, and I think it was key that Rangers made a strong start to back up that atmosphere, and it almost fed into each other. In that first half, they were excellent. I thought they went with an axis of Jefte and Ridvan Yilmaz on the left hand side, and then Václav Černý on the right hand side, who were really causing Tottenham's fullbacks a whole lot of problems, and a really superb performance.
It was a really hectic first 45 minutes, but it obviously was goalless. But when you're watching the game on the telly for me at home. And the pundits, the commentators are saying, it feels like a goal is coming for Rangers. And a goal it came. Hegmani once again getting on the score sheet. A great finish. And that's his 4th goal in the last 4 games in the Europa League. He's really starting to make that position his own for Rangers.
Yeah, he's on fire. And we spoke to goalkeeper Jack Butland after the game. And here's what he had to say about the Moroccan forward.
He's been brilliant. Obviously, we weren't available with him for a while to begin with. He sort of had that injury and he's overcome that. And you're seeing a player that's playing with a lot of confidence, a team and players around him that are now playing with a lot of confidence, and putting it in areas for him to go and show what he's about. But what he does bring is not just his goals that he's come up with in recent weeks, but the physicality and the skill level that he's got as well. So.
Confidence that boy is playing with just now, absolutely incredible. Not the most impressive player on the park for me last night though. Nicholas Raskin, just a brief moment for him. He was superb last night. Finally the player that Rangers bought in the first place. I think Nicholas Raskin, he started off well at Ibrox, a bit of a slow burn. He then had a little bit of injury problems. He struggled to fit in at times, but last night it felt like a fruition of the player that everyone I think knew he could be, and he may well kick on from this. We'll just see.
Just in that middle of the park, giving James Maddison absolutely no time at all to kind of create that magic that he likes. If he gives him a half yard, he can sort of play a pass across field. I thought James Maddison was almost pocketed last night by Nico Raskin. But you think Rangers fans, they must be kicking themselves slightly. Cyril Dessers with a great opportunity at the end to put the ball in the back of the net, just straight at Fraser Forster. He did get it in the back of the net eventually, but ruled out for offside. A chance missed maybe for Rangers?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I think the whole game may look like a little bit of a chance miss, because as good as Rangers were, Spurs were very poor. I was really disappointed with Spurs, and you can see why Ange Postecoglou is under pressure down there. And after the match, we also spoke to goal scorer Dejan Kulusevski, and here's his take on why Spurs started so slowly in that first half.
First half, they had much more energy. They were winning more duels. They created more chances. We had a couple of half chances that we didn't take, and they're a good side. And every time you play these games, you got to bring the same energy like the other team. If not, it's going to be difficult. So we lacked a little bit of energy in the first half, especially.
Was Spurs when they win the ball back in their own half, they're on their own box. The Rangers have committed numbers forward. They're trying to kind of, let's get some pace going. Let's get the game going forward. It was so slow. The passing, it was pass the ball back. Get the ball up into Rangers half and cause them some problems if they've committed all these bodies. And it wasn't a performance last night. We've watched a lot of Ange Postecoglou during his time here when he was with Celtic. It didn't feel like an Ange team. It felt like maybe he doesn't have the players to play that style of football, and he's having to almost make adjustments because of it.
Yeah, I was just so disappointed with how ponderous they were going forward. I think the front line, it didn't cause Rangers any sort of problems. Like you said, they just didn't have that vibrancy going forward. Son was really disappointing up the top of the park. Timo Werner, I mean, a lot has been made of his performance, and himself coming out and saying it was totally unacceptable. And it was strange. I've never seen a manager go after a player quite like that in a press conference. But he's made his mind up, and he said it's just not good enough, and he made that clear in no uncertain terms.
Be interesting to see if they keep Timo Werner on after his loan, whether they'll maybe even end that in January. But it's still also to play for in the Europa League.
Definitely.
Rangers sitting in 8th place in the league table. Spurs just behind them in 9th. Maybe one of those teams might miss out on automatic qualification. But that's obviously just the Europa League. We can also talk about another Scottish team in the Champions League. Celtic 0, Dinamo Zagreb 0. What did you make of that game, Blair?
It was unusually flat, I think, Patrick. It wasn't what I was expecting at all. Obviously a big game for Celtic. I think a lot of people were maybe looking at it, that this could be a win alongside the young boys' win to really set Celtic up for an excellent end to the campaign. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that a point away anywhere in Europe is always going to be a decent result. I think still having young boys at home, that's the game you're looking at and thinking, that's the banker, that's the 3 points, we've still got that in the bag to come. But yeah, I think it was maybe just a little bit flat, a little bit slow, and I think Celtic will learn from that, knowing that they've of course got that cup final at the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they've maybe put themselves under unnecessary pressure almost. There was chances there to go over to Zagreb, a team that haven't done so well, injury problems, and take all 3 points and almost secure that qualification. Now obviously the pressure goes on against young boys, bottom of the table. I think they scored 3 goals, conceded 21 goals, no points. So they'll back themselves. And the odds, the bookies, they're backing them as well. There's a great little Twitter site you might have heard of. It's called Football Meets Data. Someone like me, I like to know the stats behind it.
You love your stats, Patrick.
It's good. It's good fun. So they've got Celtic with a 95% chance of a 9th to 24th place finish, meaning they'll head into the playoff round. Obviously, there's other teams. Only Real Madrid have a better odds of finishing in that group, but I think obviously it takes into account teams that might go higher than 9th or fall lower. But they've only got a 0.1% chance now of a top 8 finish. Are you backing them just to finish comfortably in that playoff spot?
I think finishing in the playoff spot will be success for Celtic in the Champions League. I think that if you'd offered Brendan Rodgers that at the beginning of the tournament, he would have 100% took it. However, I do think he will have some regrets from the other night. Here's what he said on maybe not being as clinical as he could have been in the final third.
Yeah, I think that the positive is that we come away again and we're defensively strong, didn't concede, which is, like you say, when you have that confidence to do that in Europe, it really helps you as you make your steps forward. I thought we lacked quality, if I'm honest, in the final third of the pitch. We progressed the game well enough. We got into some really good areas. The pitch was a little bit tricky, but I think in terms of both teams, I think when I arrived into the final third, there wasn't, and I think you can see that by the shots on target that we had. So that was the only downside for the game for us. Yeah,
chance missed, but it's not all dark and gloomy for Celtic. Still on more points than Man City and Real Madrid. We'll have a look at the table now of the Champions League. Liverpool, Barcelona and Arsenal leading us away. You look at that kind of just missing out on automatic qualification. Dortmund, Bayern, Atletico Madrid, AC Milan, Atalanta, Juventus. Huge teams chasing down the pack. But you go down now to the bottom end of the table. Just missing out. PSG still just a point behind. Stuttgart, Shakhtar Donetsk. Some good teams there. And then you look at that bottom 3. RB Leipzig, Slovan Bratislava and Young Boys. I don't want to join in, Blair, but the conspiracy theories, Celtic obviously playing against those 3 teams at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, I don't think you can read too much into that, Patrick. I think that when it's drawn, it is now the luck of the draw, and I think you have your fixtures set out in front of you, and teams are going to play different teams, so you can't necessarily say that one team has had it harder than the other. I think it just depends who's on form at any given point, and I think that's one of the benefits to this new system, that it's such a wide variation of teams that you're going to play, whether they might be in form, out of form, from all different leagues. And I think it makes it a lot more competitive. And I think what is key there, as we've seen from the table, Celtic have a little bit of a cushion now into that top 24, so I think they should make that comfortable.
I'd love to know what the viewers are thinking about this current format. Kind of get in the comments, let us know. Do you like this new format of the Champions League and the Europa League, or would you like to see it go back to the traditional groups and qualification. One team maybe not enjoying this.
They certainly want to go back to groups, Patrick.
Manchester City 0, Juventus 2. Pep Guardiola and Manchester City's bad form continues, Blair.
Yep, they're struggling. And first, talk a little bit about Juventus. I think they're a really interesting team for me this year. They're 14th in the Champions League table. And I think that this season was always going to be a little bit of a transitional one, with Thiago Motta coming in from all the great things that he'd done at Bologna, obviously working with Lewis Ferguson, getting them themselves into the Champions League. You've seen how they've fallen off this season without his management. I think him walking into that Juventus team, maybe trying to replicate his style a little bit. He's brought in a lot of young players. You've got Kenan Yildiz, Kopenmeiers from Atalanta, Francisco Conceição. They're all exciting players, maybe not world-beating players, but exciting players. And they're a very interesting team to watch, and I think two players that really summed that up. Timothy Weah, who Celtic fans will remember when he was on loan on these shores, he clipped the ball into Weston McKennie, who was not pulling up trees with Leeds by any accounts when I watched him down in the Premier League, and he hits home a fantastic volley against Manchester City, and it just shows that this Juventus team may be a team better than the sum of their parts.
I think they managed the game really well against Manchester City, and I mean, we can all say Man City, they're having a terrible run. Don't get me wrong, I guarantee you they'll turn it on this weekend.
Oh, it's an absolute certainty.
But, you know, I mean, they get that goal through Vlahovic, and they're up against it. It's all Man City on the counter-attack, and what a finish it was on the volley. And I think Pep Guardiola is questioning himself almost more than anyone else. Let's hear what he had to say after the 2-0 defeat.
Of course, I question myself in the good moments and the bad moments. I was stable in the good moments, and I'm stable in the bad moments. Of course, I try to find a way and do it, but the game was there. So, and that is not. I'm incredibly honest about knowing when we don't play good or don't play good. Always the game will save us. Of course, the results, the confidence give us results, give us a good boost, and okay, we can do it. But today we concede few.
I mean, all the talk is about Man City, how badly they're doing in the league, 22nd in the Champions League table. I wouldn't put it past them to go and win this Champions League, you know.
It's hard to see that right now. It's 7 losses in 10 feels surreal for this Manchester City team. I just didn't think that would ever happen under Pep Guardiola. And it almost becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy that when teams see a bit of weakness, they then go for it. And this Man City team look weak. It looks like you wouldn't back them to beat anyone. I know you were joking there that they're going to turn up against Manchester United this weekend, but if Manchester United go and beat them 3 or 4-0, it wouldn't surprise me either, the way they're playing just now. But again, they're a side that, like you said, they have so much quality. You would expect them to come out of this at some point. When that'll be, who knows?
The word weak, I don't think we've even mentioned in the same sentence as Pep Guardiola and his Man City team in the last 5-6 years. So it'll be interesting to see if he can turn it around, or maybe this season it's just a write-off and maybe even drop out of the Champions League, all to play for. But one game I'd love to talk about, Borussia Dortmund, Barcelona. First 45 minutes, if you haven't watched the game, instantly forgettable.
Yep.
I mean, I have to admit, it was my birthday on Wednesday night. Had a few friends round. We were watching the game, having a few drinks. We only switched it on at the 45th minute. What a second half.
What a decision that was.
We were just like, what is this? Where's this come from? But an incredible game. And Barcelona, once again, getting all 3 points.
I think Barcelona are great value this year. Anytime I watch them, they're so exciting. And I remember in the summer there was a little bit of criticism over them, and I'm watching them saying, where is this coming from? I'm looking at this team with Lamine Yamal, Dani Olmo, Robert Lewandowski, Rafinha, who has turned into this world beater with the captain's armband on. They're so good to watch. One of the players that really, really impressed me in this game is Marc Casado, the 21-year-old midfielder. He's turning into this air of Xavi round about him. I know that's big comparisons already, but sitting in that defensive midfielder role, he's just so good at that pivot alongside Pedri. He takes the ball, he intercepts the ball. He's that typical Barcelona midfielder that just seemed to regenerate over and over again, that sits in the middle of the park and is just excellent with the ball at his feet. And this is a player who looked as though he might have been on his way out of the club under Xavi himself when he was the manager. He promoted him through the youth ranks, but he didn't quite get that chance to take his first team opportunity. He went with Andreas Christensen instead. So it really all changed when Hans Hansi Flick came into the club. Hansi Flick gave him this opportunity, seen the potential, and he's just another off this production line of Barcelona stars that look as though he's a superstar already.
It's working. You know, top of the La Liga this season, ahead of Real Madrid. And
second in the Champions League.
Second in the Champions League. They are another name you've got to throw in the hat. I think if you had asked me this time last season, Barcelona to win the Champions League, they were kind of going through that evolution. But now Hansi Flick, he has got the ball rolling. Just the quality for me was what really stood out. The goals, Ferran Torres, incredible.
It seems as though they've kind of taken on from Spain's Euros win and taken a lot of that into their own game. Obviously, they have a few key players from that. They have Lamine Yamal and they have Dani Olmo, they added in the summer. But having those players who were so key to Spain in the summer and then bringing that into Barcelona and just continuing that winning mentality, it can be so vital for them, I think.
We'll keep on the theme of Spanish teams. Real Madrid 3, Atalanta 2. You can just never write off a Carlo Ancelotti team in the Champions League.
Even when they were down and out, I never ever thought there was a chance that Real Madrid are not going to make through in this Champions League. It's just what they do. They will scrape in by the skin of their teeth, and then when the knockout stage starts, they will turn it on, because it's what Real Madrid do year after year after year. As the seasons come, Real Madrid will turn up all the time this year, especially with the players they've got. You just look at the scorers: Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, and Jude Bellingham. When you've got guys like that on the park, you've always got a chance.
I mean, they'll be hoping Kylian Mbappe's injury isn't too serious. He obviously went off the park with a thigh injury. But I think for me, you look at Real Madrid coming into this game, 6 points in their opening 5 fixtures. They take on an Atalanta side unbeaten in their last 14 in all competitions.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Real Madrid are probably the underdogs in any game of football, but you're looking at Atalanta. They're the confident side, the Italians. They're hoping they're going to go and take all 3 points, and it's just incredible. As you said, the big names stepping up time and time again, and you just can't write them off ever in this competition.
Kylian Mbappe, obviously that injury, it might stall him a little bit. We don't know the full extent of that yet, but maybe just seeing a little bit of flashes of what he can do, a little bit of the superstar of what Kylian Mbappe. We haven't really seen it yet at Real Madrid. It hasn't really caught fire, but his goal, the touch for his goal was absolutely sublime, and that's him now on 50 Champions League goals at the age of 25. He's joint 10th in the list alongside Mo Salah and Pippo Inzaghi. Still quite a way off the top, to be fair. Number 3 on that list, Robert Lewandowski with 101. Second, Lionel Messi with 129. And up the top there, Cristiano Ronaldo with 141. Not a bad list. He has some way to go to climb up that, but you wouldn't back him getting a few more before his career is finished.
Nah, I think he'll be one to watch for the future. That Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah.
Imagine you said that a few years ago.
Definitely.
Nah, it's all good. Champions League week 6 is over. 2 more to go, but we've sadly got to wait until the 22nd of January. Christmas is coming, Blair. Enjoy your Christmas. To the viewers, happy Christmas and a happy New Year. We'll be back in 2025. That sounds a bit weird.
It very much does, Patrick.
2025, but we'll be back giving you all of your European football fix. Myself and Blair Malloy, thanks for joining us here on PRZ Soccer's YouTube channel.